Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Tackett, the Executive Director of the Chamber, and I want to welcome all of you to our first Friday luncheon for the month of February 2021. We hope you all are having a successful year and staying warm on this extra cold, brisk day today. And we hope also that you all are staying healthy during this crazy time. We certainly are happy to have you with us today. Do we wish we were in person and meeting face to face? We sure do. And we look forward to when we can all do that safely and enjoy lunch together, as well as all of that face to face conversation. Today, we're excited to have with us Erika Willitzer. She's the new Executive Director at Defiance County Economic Development. And Erika will be sharing with us today some information on Moneyball economic development. She'll talk about how she's used this technique in her strategic planning and how she plans to take the same approach on a county-wide basis. Be prepared to take some techniques back to your coworkers, and that will help you stay focused, streamlined, and ready to win when it comes to accomplishing your team's goals. So if you would please make welcome Erika Willitzer.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I want to tell you that with Microsoft Teams, I have to get that all reset, and my name still says Jerry Hayes on it, but hey, that's no problem. Again, my name is Erika Willitzer, and I'm very pleased to be the new Executive Director at the Defiance County Economic Development Office. And first off, what I wanted to do is share with you just a few things about some of my core beliefs. When it comes to, the two things that I think that you should always focus on and everything should kind of feed back into those things. I believe it is innovation in storytelling. If you really think back to how things were in things that have been invented, well, people were innovative. Also, they told that story. They were good marketers. Our history books, we know the history of things because of the stories that they've told. So I definitely believe that should be something that we always focus on. Real quick, I'm not seeing the presentation. Is that up?
Erika, I am working on that. Let me know if you can see that.
Now I see it. Okay, so again, I believe that everything should feed and right into the storytelling and innovation. And innovation doesn't necessarily have to be like all high-tech stuff. It can be about how you approach things, being innovative about how you're organizing your team. So I just want to make sure I drive home that point. Also, the other thing that I have a strong belief in is to focus on what is strong and not what is wrong. I think too many times everybody's like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and that's horrible. And it just, honestly, it just sucks the life out of everything. And people don't have momentum to regroup and build together and actually accomplish things. So I want to really take an approach where we look at what we have here. And I believe Defiance County has so much to offer. One of the things that on number 3, I'll let you read that slide, but communities wait a lot of times for outsiders to help instead of helping themselves. And I truly believe, just in the short time I've been here, the talent that is in Defiance County is extraordinary. We have so many people here that I think can do stuff. Now, do I think that consultants can help in a lot of ways? Yes. But do I think that there are a lot of initiatives where we have the talent and the power to do it here? Absolutely. The other thing that I'm really going to focus on, and I'm trying to build a team to do this, is to really focus on what we have already here. I'm always going to continue to try to go after that big fish and try to attract companies here to Defiance County, but we also have to focus on the existing businesses as well. I remember when I was working over in Van Wert County, I asked their economic developer, well, how many companies have you recruited? And she said, well, in the last 2 years, none. Well, how many jobs have you created? And she goes, well, in the last 2 years, 1,000. And I was like, wow. And that's because they're taking this approach. They were really trying to figure out what the companies they had needed and then assisting them with the resources to provide that avenue for them to create jobs. I'm wanting to look at potentially new markets for companies, identify those stage 2 companies that are right there. I mean, maybe have 5, 10 employees, but they could just go to the next level. They could soar if they had market research, maybe CEO or SEO, search engine optimization for their website, maybe get them a consultant for putting all of their products online on Amazon and eBay. One of the companies that I spoke with actually just prior to COVID-19, they knew that things were going to get tough. What they did is they went and hired an e-commerce consultant. They implemented it, and now they had to hire 30 to 40 new employees during the pandemic. So that's the kind of approach that I'm hoping to create. We're trying to set up a committee for that. If that's something you're interested in, please reach out to me, because that is now just forming. So you can go to the next slide. The other thing, I mean, it's just, there are so many things happening in our communities, and there are tons of pillars. And I want to make note that, again, all those should go back to the innovation and storytelling. But most importantly for our office is to really get a really good idea of what our inventory is. We need to know what we have, and we also need to know where we're lacking so that we can improve that. So right now, our office is doing that. We're going through all of our marketing materials, making sure those are spot on. We're going through all the different sites. We're looking at other potential sites. So if companies from outside or from companies that are right here need to expand, they can come to us and we can say, here are some of your options. So we want to get that nailed down. We also, I would say about 10 years ago, different site selectors, they didn't care about quality of life or the quality of place. All they wanted was the site. They wanted to make sure the infrastructure was there. That has completely changed. The two now is they say, okay, what are some things there that the employees can do? What's your quality of life like? So economic developers need to pay attention to those kinds of things, as well as housing. Obviously, most of you know we have a shortage of housing all over, and we need to pay attention to that. We can't attract these companies and try to get expansions if we don't have places for them to live. So those are some things that we really need to pay close attention to. The other thing too is, go ahead and flip to the next slide. And those are just a few more, yeah, that's fine. I had also mentioned put up health and wellness and, the parks and the trails. Regarding parks and trails, one of the stories I always tell, and some of you on this call might have heard me say it, but in Kalida, when I was working over there, in Kalida, they have this park that you go into their town entrance and you see these $300,000 to $400,000 homes. Well, it all started with a park. Apparently, there was 80 acres of just a dump yard, and a group of people banded together. They cleaned that up, said they were going to build a park. They started raising money, started building that park, and then eventually a housing developer came in and said, look, we want to build some homes. They built the homes. Then pretty soon a company came in and said, well, we want to come here. So it can be a spiral effect, and it can start from a park, the quality of place, and it can also start the flip side where you attract and go the other direction. But I just want to make sure that you guys all understand from our perspective that quality of life, quality of place is very important. And then as far as like redefining the workplace, I wanted to make a mention that we also need to be on top of this. I have been having a blast meeting with the different companies across Defiance County. And what I'm finding is they are very innovative. They're coming up with new ways of helping their workers with the whole pandemic. Some of them are offering half of the week home, half the week at work. Some of them are doing 4-day work weeks. They're trying to adjust to what's happening so that people can be accommodating when it comes to daycare and other matters. So I think that's great, but I also think that we need to be on top of all the emerging technology that's out there. So when it comes back to like the Moneyball economic development, and you're like, what does that mean? What it means is this. I'm sure some of you are aware of the Brad Pitt movie Moneyball, where Brad Pitt played this general manager called Billy Bean. And Billy Bean was like, he had this different thought process. It wasn't about hiring the best hitter, the best star athlete. It was really about looking at the numbers and looking at seeing the consistency. He felt that getting on base was just as good as getting a hit. So what I try to do, and what we're trying to build here at the Economic Development Office, is we're creating a metric dashboard where we're tracking everything. We're tracking the housing startups, potential housing developments, where we're trying to get down to the nitty gritty so that we can have like this benchmark to follow. And what it will hopefully allow us to do is pinpoint where some of the gaps are, where we need to pay more attention to certain things. So the other thing that I want to also talk to you about today is just, some different leadership nuggets that have really like stuck with me. I know most of you on this call have probably been to tons of leadership conferences and different training sessions, but I would tell you that one of the things that's really stuck with me is having SMART goals. And I will tell you, when I go to different companies, a lot of companies don't have them. And it does help you. I think it's sometimes intimidating to set goals and have deadlines, but I will tell you, I have seen teams transform by doing it. And it's a SMART goal. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And I'm telling you, it has really helped me accomplish a lot of different things. It holds myself accountable along with the team. And I used to use, I did a lot of training on different strategic planning, and I've had a lot of fails, but I've learned from them. So I had this one model called the Cascade model for strategic planning and tracking goals. And let's just say I failed miserably at it. The team that I was tracking, they weren't buying it, they weren't engaged, they didn't get it. It was very confusing. So I went to our CEO and said, look, I'm starting from scratch, and I'm doing red light, yellow light, green light, and percentages. And it worked. It was great, because I would have these grown men come to me and say, Erika, I am on yellow and I cannot be on yellow. What do I need to do from a performance standpoint to get this corrected? And it really helps you stay on track. And a lot of people think, okay, do I have to do this every day? I think what I have found is the easiest is you're always tracking everything in your calendar. You know what your day-to-day activities are. You can go back and you can figure out a lot of those different goals. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Here's a fancy example. Go ahead, Jenna, and flip it. The dashboard. I don't know, maybe she's not there anymore. Jenna?
I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how to.
Okay. They have a lot of different, look, very colorful, it's beautiful. And a lot of times these types of software are very expensive, but you can just use a regular Excel spreadsheet. And if you can go ahead and flip to that, I will tell you, this is what we're using. This is our template. This is when we first started. And it's just going to have a red, green, yellow, and the percentages. And you'll notice that we actually always assign, and we also have a deadline, and we have what that measurable result is. So I would tell you that this has been a very helpful tool in my past, and I'm hoping it's going to be a very helpful tool in the future, not only for our organization, but for the entire county. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Another tool that I have learned that was extremely beneficial. I used to operate or manage 4 different magazine publications, and a lot of the different articles in there, and the deadlines were very different, and that's a lot to juggle. And it was almost seeming like I was with some of the staff members trying to reach out to them like, oh, here's this, here's that, here's that. It finally got to the point it was so overwhelming. So we use this technique called the yellow document. So if I had something for Courtney, I would ask myself, okay, do I really need to send this to her, or can I take maybe on a, the next day, or maybe every Friday, like 10 minutes to go through my yellow document list, my post-it note list for Courtney, to go through. Here's an item, here's an item, here's an item. Now, if it's urgent, you don't want to do that. But if there's some items that you're like, from a strategic standpoint, that's a little bit of a long-term goal, I would suggest using this. I've also found, and I know that a lot of you struggle with this because I know I do, with the emails. I'm constantly like, I'll be working on something, I'm over here, then I'm over there. So this will help. I think it really helps when you have larger teams. Smaller teams, it's not as much needed, but I will tell you that when you have 10 or more team members, it's very beneficial. So when it comes to anything from a company standpoint, an organization standpoint, it's really about marketing, and marketing a lot of times is about writing. And something that my editors in my past would always get on me is about writing an active voice. And they shared this trick with me, and first of all, it's hilarious. And second of all, it actually works. So writing in the active voice is what they always want. That's a good tip from a marketing perspective. And you've probably heard some of these folks that are really great at writing tell you that. So how does it work? All you need to do is insert, and too bad it wasn't like Halloween or something when we were doing this, but I guess you could insert anything. You just insert the term "by zombies" right after the verb in your sentence. And if that sentence makes sense with this addition, it's passive, and you probably want to revise it. Now, if it doesn't make sense when you add "by zombies," you've got an active sentence on your hand. So go to the next slide. Here's an example. So Chamber Executive Director Sarah Tackett reassured "by zombies" business owners would prevail despite COVID-19. That sentence doesn't make sense with the added "by zombies." So it's active. It's already got a clear subject, which is Chamber Executive Director Sarah Tackett. So, all right, we got an active sentence there. So let's try it this way. The chamber membership form needs to be filled out by zombies before benefits can be activated. So who's actually doing the filling out? That sentence does not make sense if zombies existed. So there's no subject. It's passive. You want to try to revise it. So that was a tip that I heard at a conference I went to, and I loved it. It was something that really related to me, and it's something I try to use, throughout. The other technique, and I know that most of you are doing this as well, is just an all-above marketing approach. We have to be using all the different mediums in order to really reach, our fullest potential. Some of the companies that I've been working with that are not having problems with recruitment, they're using the all-above approach. I actually have been on the radio on Pandora. I'm hearing ads from local companies. I mean, there's a lot of different areas of marketing, and I would suggest that you try an all-above approach. One of the tools that we have been using here at our office that we started, and I love it. I know Courtney, our marketing expert, loves it too. It's using Canva. Canva can do all sorts of different graphics. It sizes everything for you. But in addition to that, they just added a social media scheduler. So that right there is a picture of what it looks like. It's very handy. You can schedule it to LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't know if you can do YouTube, but I think you can do everything else that's not necessarily video. You can take their graphics and schedule those. So I would highly suggest utilizing that. It's been a time saver for us. We love it. And we're slowly but surely trying to get things transition to, from a marketing perspective, we changed our domain to defiancecountyed.com. We're trying to get that redone. And go ahead and go to the next slide. And trying to get a lot of different things updated. As you can see, my name still says Jerry Hayes on there. We're working on getting our email addresses switched, which would update our Microsoft Outlook stuff as well. Right now, my email address is currently ewillitzer@defecon.com. It's the same as Jerry's, but it just has ewillitzer. But in the next coming days, fingers crossed, that's going to be Erika@defiancecountyed.com. There's my cell number on there. I want to be available, open to any ideas, suggestions, or if you just need some resources. I might not have all the answers, but what I can do, and if I am to say one thing that I'm really good at doing, is finding somebody that can help you. And with that, I will open it up for questions, and please don't be too hard on me.
Erika, I guess I'll start off if that's all right.
Sure.
You've been in this seat of 3 months, going on 4 months. What's been the biggest surprise to you?
The biggest surprise. Oh. I think the biggest surprise for me was, please don't, if you have anything at your computer screen, don't throw it at me. It's culturally, Defiance County is a little different than some of the other counties that I've worked in. But from a refreshing standpoint, and I'll tell you why. So hopefully, if anybody's met me, you know I'm very direct and I shoot straight. But a lot of times, I was very honestly taken off guard by some of the directness. I found people that are very direct like me. It was coming to Defiance County. A lot of the other places are, it takes a little while before they're that direct. But here in Defiance, it was like I would meet and immediately they're like, okay, we need to be doing this. And I was like, okay. So so culturally, that was very different, but it's a good difference. So I really have been enjoying that.
Great, thank you. Who else might have a question for Erika today? Be sure to unmute your microphone so that we can hear you if you have a question.
You guys are letting me off easy.
I don't have a question, but I will make a comment. This is Mayor McCann. Just want to say that I've had the opportunity now to work shoulder to shoulder with Erika for a couple months. We like the way she's innovating in her new position. Certainly like her enthusiasm. She did mention that she says what she has on her mind, boldness, if you will. And certainly I appreciate that. She does not hesitate to call me in the evenings if she has something on her mind she wants to discuss. And I think that's important because, I have thoughts in my mind on the evening. My mind's a lot older than hers, but I have it, thoughts I'm thinking about in the evenings. And if I don't make a note of what it is I wanted to discuss the next day, by the time I get into work, it's gone. So I think certainly it would behoove all of us in the community in Defiance County to find a time to engage with Erika and get to know her, listen to her vision. And I think you will be very, very impressed with what she's going to bring to our ED office.
That was very kind. Thank you, Mayor. Well, I know that I've met several of you already, and I've been trying to make the rounds. So if anybody I would invite would like to set up a one-on-one, I would welcome that. I'm really excited to meet everybody.
And I would I would encourage everybody at this time to turn your camera back on so that Erika can take a look at who these friendly folks are that have joined the conversation today, and maybe be able to read the name and say, oh, I have seen her before. Oh, I have seen him before. We'll sort of do the Brady Bunch thing here with a screen of 28 of us or so. Who else might have a question today for Erika? Erika, I guess I'll kick off, and maybe this will help stimulate some additional comments. We get calls here at the Chamber, and perhaps you all do as well, of suggestions of the types of businesses or stores or restaurants that we should have this XYZ in our community. We need to bring it to Defiance. And it sounds like such a simple request. Might you just talk a bit about some background into what the process really might entail to be, let's say, for example, a very large retail chain? What might some of those initial steps be that people may not really realize that goes into the recruitment process for a large, say, a large employer in our community, new to the community?
The mayor and Commissioner Mack and I, we met earlier this week to talk about the recruitment piece of that. And I would tell you that I think it's just getting on their radar. And we're wanting to put together some recruitment marketing pieces that really outline maybe what some of the, you know, if we're going to target like a food industry, from an industrial standpoint, have a lot of those stats together, and then have a nice marketing piece. If it's, you know, an agricultural business, have those stats on a marketing piece. So we're right in the beginning stages of doing that. But as far as just like what it looks like when companies, you know, come to us without those marketing pieces, maybe it's a Jobs Ohio lead. If a lot of you aren't familiar with the process, Jobs Ohio gets a lot of state leads from site selectors. Those are sent down to our office, and then what we do is we try to look at what sites would be the best. And then Courtney, who is our office manager, marketing manager, she's actually really good at compiling all the data and then shifting it back to Jobs Ohio, where then they submit that to that site selector or that corporation. Now, if we're so lucky that they come back again and they want to do a site visit, what that will look like is it's pretty intense. And I haven't had the blessing to do that here in Defiance County, but we're going to. But I will tell you what has happened in some of my other past experiences. It's really just having your community team together. You put together a presentation. You have your experts at the table when it comes to utilities, to the gas, and you do your best pitch. But again, like I said, it's all about the infrastructure, but now it's also about quality of life. And one thing that I have really enjoyed seeing is the elected officials are now starting to get involved with that. Several years ago, they never wanted the elected officials involved. So now they have the elected officials really do that quality of life piece. So you have all the infrastructure presentations, but then either at the end or the beginning of those pitches, then you have the elected officials give their spiel about why this community is great. And then hopefully from there, they have other questions, and you field those questions, and you just hope that they land in your community. So it's a big process. And then you're also trying to figure out the grants, the financing for some of the expansion that you might need as far as roads. So there's a lot that goes into it. But what I'm very excited about in Defiance County, everybody is on board. A lot of the communities that I've worked in the past, either they don't have the means to do that, or they don't want to grow. So that's why I'm very excited about being here in Defiance County.
Let me just for a minute, if I may, piggyback on to what Erika just said. She's used the term several different times, and I know everybody understands when we talk about quality of life, but I don't know for sure that everybody understands the importance of it. It's getting to be more and more important. You know, I've been mayor 5 years. 5 years ago, when I came into the office, we talked a lot about the quality of life, but it did not seem to be as important as what it is just today, only 5 years later. Recently, Lori and I took a group of professional people on a tour of the community. They were interested in housing. They were interested in our parks. They were interested in the walkability of our community. They wanted to know, some of them were younger. They wanted to know where they could go to drink beer and find their husband. And so that's the sort of things they were interested in. We drove down some of our roads that are not in the best of shape, and I apologize for the condition of those roads. And they all laughed and said, where we come from, the roads are much, much worse. Don't worry about it. People here, my constituents, are always on me about the condition of their roads, and it's important to me because it's important to them, and frankly, it's important. But this quality of life is getting to be a big deal. It is what attracts companies. It attracts companies because they want to attract people. They want to attract employees, and they want to attract quality people, and quality people care about the quality of life. And it's something we can't ignore any longer. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's going to be, when I do my State of the City address, a lot of emphasis is going to be placed on quality of life.
The other thing to add on to that is, with this pandemic, a lot of these companies from, larger cities are saying you can work remotely. And I know that I've heard from different realtors that some kids are coming back here. They're living here because they want to be close to their parents. I know when you say that, everybody's like, what? Your kids want to be by your parents? Well, yes. We did it when I was over in Paulding County. We did a survey of 700 high school students, and the survey came back, and the one thing that just blew our minds was that those kids want to come back here and live, to be by their families. And I think with this pandemic, if anything good has come out of it, is that we're going to see a lot of these kids, and when I say kids, I'm talking like in their 20s, coming back to Defiance County and the area around Defiance County. And we've got to be focusing on the quality of life. We've got to be focusing on the housing issues. And in fact, the mayor and I were talking about this. John Urbans, who is the CEO of Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., he is a super guy. He actually sent out an article about how they're switching their tactics on attraction. They actually are starting to figure out how they can recruit people that lived in Fort Wayne or grew up in Fort Wayne, recruit them back because they can work from Fort Wayne. But they might have their corporate office might be in Chicago or California, but they can live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And those are some of the tactics that I think here in Defiance County we need to be tackling.
Great. Exciting conversation to hear for sure. Anyone else have a comment or a question for our guest today, Erika?
Hi, Erika. This is Lisa Beecher with the Small Business Development Center. Just have a quick question for you.
Sure.
How do you see communities are made up of small, medium, and large businesses? How do you see those specific sizes of businesses fitting together here in Defiance? And do you have a growth plan for those small businesses?
Well, Lisa, I think that's I know that we're trying to do that homegrown committee that I had mentioned in the presentation. And I know that those are the stage 2, but when I talked to Commissioner Mack about that as well, we had the same conversation. I think that is going to be something that we're going to try to develop as well. And obviously you're the expert when it comes to small business. We would definitely need to tackle that, but I do think that they play a role. I've seen where small businesses, they start with one individual, and then they grow to be these major corporations. So I think we do need to pay attention to them so they do fit in. It goes right alongside with what I talked about with the stage 2. What typically happens when you focus on the stage 2 companies, those ones that have the 5 to 10 employees, it allows for more stage 1, those beginners coming in. So I think that we need to definitely incorporate that into the plan. And I am looking forward to having some conversation with you on just how we can provide other resources for some of the smaller businesses.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Hi, Erika. I'm also Erika.
I know, and you spell it the right way.
I always say that to people too. We're going to be good friends.
That's right.
I'm with the Boy Scouts of America, and so I'm thrilled. I just wanted to tell you that I'm thrilled to hear you talk about quality of life, because when you attract employees, new businesses to your communities, they want to have good things to be able to do for their kids. So, if there's enriching youth programs around and flourishing in the environment, that's something that can also help attract them. So I'm just really thrilled to hear you and Mayor McCann talk about that.
Great. Thank you.
That's a good point. Both Erikas, yes, thank you. Anyone else today? Well, everyone, I certainly appreciate that you're all with us today. And, Erika has posted her contact information. If you have questions that you think of after this session has ended, please don't hesitate to reach out to Erika and her team, and they'll be happy to get right back with you. I certainly want to thank all of you for joining us today. It's wonderful to see you all. I can't wait till we can do that all again in person. Next month, beginning of March, we will be virtual once again. So the first Friday in March is Friday, March 5th, also at noon via Microsoft Teams. And our guest that day will be Chris Yoder, who's the Executive Director at the Defiance Area Foundation. Chris will be sharing information on growing through giving in our community. So thank you all once again. Erika, wonderful job today. Thank you for being our guest. Thank you all for attending. Stay warm, stay safe, and take care, everyone. Thanks for being with us.